So first order of business is approving minutes from August 11th and September 8th. So do we have changes, additions to August 11th?
Oh, shoot. There it goes again. I'm gonna have to run and get my other computer to take notes on, because I just lost you again. So don't say anything significant for about 3 minutes.
Do you want me to take notes for you while you're?
Yeah, take
figuring
notes
that
while
out,
I'm
Rena?
gone, but I'll be
Okay,
right
I'll
back.
do
Yeah.
that. Okay, I'll do
Okay.
that for you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
So I don't hear any changes or additions to August 11th. Does someone want to make a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept.
Okay, Karen makes, and Meryl seconded. Let's see, I guess I can call roll since Janet's not here. Meryl,
Aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right, moving on to September 8th. Is it September 8th or September 9th? 8th. So the date on the minutes needs to be changed. At least on the copy I have.
So change September 8 to September 9, is that correct?
No, the
Other way
copy I
around?
have says September 9 on it,
Okay, change September 9 to September 8, okay.
right? Okay,
So I make a motion to accept with the exception of the change from September 8 to from September 9 to September 8.
Second,
okay. Karen,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Meryl,
Janet,
aye.
and I vote aye. So that's September 8th is all set too. Okay, Janet, we're good with minutes.
wait a minute, give me, I've got to, I have to get set up.
Let me know when you're ready. I'll take care of it until you're ready.
Okay.
Thanks, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
You have your hand up. Is that,
Me, who I do?
yes?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mary
no,
Beth.
that's just an accident. Sorry.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, let me fix it. Lower hand, okay.
Okay. All right, good. So Kelly Hebert is here to talk with us about a grant proposal that she has submitted that I think would be really wonderful if the town gets the funding for it. So I told her we could move her up earlier in the agenda because she's got another meeting at 5:30.
No,
So Kelly, you're on. You're
Hello,
mute.
everyone.
hello.
First,
Kelly.
thank you. Thank you for inviting us to the Oasis yesterday. It was beautiful. I hope you feel very good about that project. It came out fabulous, and sharing my pictures, if it's okay, with Donna, who is doing our public information, and wanted to maybe send a picture or two to the was it this, that was a community, I'm sorry, it was, what's the name of the grant program that you got to use?
The CPA.
The CPA, yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought it was fabulous. I just wanted
Okay,
to
I'm
thank you
back.
for inviting us.
Okay.
So.
Well, and let me break in just 1 second
Sure.
to say really all the credit for the beautiful Oasis goes to Jennifer, who did all the design work. It's absolutely fabulous. And I know some of you were hoping to come and it didn't work out. You're welcome to come anytime. It's a lovely accessible pathway through the woods, and it's got some musical instruments along the way. There's a wonderful glider that has a bench seat on one side and a space
love
for a
that.
wheelchair on the other side. So everybody can use it at the same time. There are picnic tables. It's just a lovely spot that Jennifer designed for us.
It takes a village, Jean. It always does. It always
Great.
does.
No, that was fabulous. And of course, we enjoyed cheese and crackers today. Thank you very much. On the cutting board, it was fabulous. We got to share with the office. But thank you. Yes, so I just wanted to fill you in and thank you, Jean, for your encouragement and your support for the idea. You know, since I was named the interim ADA coordinator for the town, I've been, you know, I've had the title, if you will, a couple of, you know, maybe at least 2 or 3 other times during my career, but, you know, I wanted to get sort of up to speed again. And while I was doing that and on the state's website, you know, I came across the grant, which I did know exists. We've applied a couple of times in Topsfield and Belmont and Chelmsford. And we're very successful working with them because they have a very, you know, they have some funds and they're looking for some great projects. And I have to say that one of the plugs that we get, and I think we get extra points, is because the town does have a disabilities commission. And I was reading that in 2017, perhaps you had your town meeting that turned the disabilities committee to a commission.
Right.
That shows great progress to the state that we are, as a town, taking, you know, those requirements very seriously. And that the town is looking to make sure that we're not just in compliance, but that we are really trying to be a welcoming and inclusive community for people of all different backgrounds and abilities. So I just wanted to applaud all of you for whatever work you had to do with, you know, making that happen at town meeting in a few years back. So I'm hoping, let's knock on wood and say a few prayers, if you don't mind, that we get the grant. And the worst case, we don't get it, we can go back in April. But I thought it was a great opportunity and a chance for me to figure out, you know, as ADA coordinator, where are the ground rules? Where's the plan that, you know, is required by law that we have in place? And, you know, I looked high and low and here and there, and lo and behold, I found this handbook. This is our handbook. I'm not sure if you recognize this, from 2006. It's about 3 inches thick, and this is our assessment, our self-assessment and our transition plan from 2006. And while I felt that that was very helpful as a starting point, I realized that, lo and behold, it not only is old, but, you know, in 2010 with the new regulations, there's really no indication in here whether or not those have been integrated or identified. Now, I do know that the Public Works Department, and proudly so, rightly so, has a public right-of-way ADA assessment and transition plan in place, and they follow that regularly with respect to their requests for capital improvements. So we are making strides in that area. I think that was in 2016 or 17, or maybe even, but they're updating their plan every year. And my hope really in submitting that grant, they have 2 different grants. One's a planning grant. The other one is a project grant. And I know, and I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities and projects around town that we could, you know, use some funding for. But, you know, I'm a great believer that, you know, rather than do all of these one-offs, that we should have a plan and make sure that people know what the plan is, so that when these one-offs come along, we can, you know, it won't be the first time that we become aware of them, that we know in our plan and our roadmap, where are we going? How do we want to get there? And how do you plug in all of the people along the way that it takes in that village to make that vision a reality? So a couple of different things. First of all, 2006 was old. 2010 new regs came out. also just from a pragmatic point, having bringing this workbook with me to your meeting might have been very clunky and kind of corny, but the reality is that I'm going to have to literally scan this in and figure out which pieces belong where. I thought that was kind of a waste of effort and energy when we potentially could get a new plan that is accessible and that we could allow to be in electronic format. We can share it. We can share it not just with the facilities department, which should be aware of what public buildings need ADA conformance or improvements, but we can share that with your committee, and we can share that with the capital planning group and the finance committee, so that as we move forward as an organization, when those capital priorities are being drawn up, that we're all looking at the same base document. We're sharing the information. We're having discussions about that long before the capital budget process. So if we get this grant, it was for $35,000. If we get the grant, God willing, we will be able to update our plan. It would include pictures and an inventory and a database that would be created in Microsoft Excel. Would be searchable by department or property, or we might have things that are safety conditions or safety priorities versus things that might be nice to have, or maybe future planning. We'll have a document, and it'll be all an electronic document that we can make accessible to any of our partners that we'd like to build up some more momentum. Because I know that as a community, there have been a lot of great things being done, including the Oasis, that really is an expression of the town's willingness and just really its willingness, but also its need to really, make things more inclusive for all of our residents. So $35,000, it was submitted, I think, last week or the week before. I had been talking about it for a while. I went back to the 2006 document and found the name of Gabriella, and her last name escapes me for the moment, but she actually worked on the plan in 2006. So I figured I'm going to start there. We had a great discussion. She has some background. The company's name has changed. It used to be Adaptive Environments, and now it has a new name. And oh gosh, I should have taken down the name. Very popular company. They're from Boston. Their centers in Boston, but they do a lot of work for the state and the federal government. So when I get more information, I'm happy to send it to all of you, but I just wanted you to know sort of what the plans were, and what we were hoping to do is get an updated plan that we can use as a tool, as a roadmap for moving forward, for prioritizing the projects that we know are there, but really need a chance to identify and share with other decision makers in the town, so that we can, start taking care of some of those and identifying where the priorities are. So hopefully, I'm trying to think, we should know probably within the next month or so. So hopefully at one of our future meetings, I'll be reporting good news. And if not, I'll be reporting that we'll have another crack at that in April. And with your assistance and your support, I'm sure that, there's nowhere to go but up from that. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know, I was happy to work on that and grateful for Jean for your feedback, your support, your input along the way. And to the rest of you for doing the great work that you're doing. So thank you.
Question, Jennifer.
Kelly, that's such good news. I think that's absolutely the right track. I really appreciate you taking the time to dig into what the resources are that we have that are existing, understanding that they're older than the 2010 changes, which were implementable in 2012, as you know. So that's far before that. So that's very exciting that you've taken the time to do that. I really appreciate that. If it gets, so in my professional life, I've done a lot of consulting for groups like the IHCD, which is one of the organizations that has done quite a few evaluations for universities and towns and municipal entities. If the project happens to, if we get the grant and the project gets started, if it's possible, most of these companies will do an initial kind of constituent workshop or some kind of, you know, charrette with a core group of people to try to set priorities. If somebody from our commission could be on that list or on that group of people, that kind of core committee that's helping to direct the project, that would be really great. I think it would be helpful for us to be able to have some input on just feedback we've heard on the commission over the last few years about what people are having difficulty with. Self-evaluations are always a little tricky because it just, you end up
Jen,
relying.
I have to interrupt for a second.
Go ahead,
Jennifer,
Jenny.
I have to interrupt for a second. Would you go back to, I don't know if everybody else did, but I lost sound after you said, would it be possible to, and the key part of what your statement, could you go back
That's
and just,
okay. Yes, Janet, what I said is I would really love it if Kelly could put one of the members of the Disability Commission on the client committee group that will be working in the event that we get the grant, that would be working with the assessment team. I think we could offer a lot of sort of, you know, institutional knowledge based on what we've learned over the last few years. That's all.
Yeah, and I might sort of add or expand on that a little bit, that it might be helpful to have more than one, because different members of the commission sort of represent different disabilities, so have different chunks of knowledge about things. So
You know, I really love that idea, and what I would say is that I'm willing to accept any assistance that any of you would like to provide. So as a commission, if you wanted to do, it wasn't on the agenda tonight, but at the next meeting, you know, if you'd like to officially vote to designate someone for that, I'm happy to do that with you, and I would welcome that and appreciate that. Really, I think it would be great to be able to work with you. You know how grants go, they kind of creep up on you, and I wanted to make sure we got in our information. But to Jennifer's point, she's exactly right. There's two steps involved. One is we do need to do an RFP. It's more than $10,000. You know, so I've got a draft RFP that I'd like to hit the ground even before we get notice about the grant opportunity. And then the second thing is that even once we get it and we get a vendor, you know, I have a general framework based on my understanding of the project. That's how we got to the number that we got to, working with this particular vendor. However, we do need to do an RFP, but what I did incorporate specifically as a part of that, the scope of service, is that an inclusive process that involves not just me, not just town department heads, but citizens and groups, your committee, and we will be looking for that type of inclusivity with respect to how these things get prioritized. So there will be a few steps, but it was very important. I actually asked them to add in some more money based on more than just one meeting. They typically might include, you know, an estimate to make a presentation to the select board. And I specifically said I'd really like to get a presentation for our Disabilities Commission and also one for our senior department heads, because, you know, we want to make sure it doesn't collect dust on a shelf and nobody knows it's there. And we really do need to focus on that engagement on all different levels. So I would love for there to be one or two members of your committee, and I'd also be happy to report back to you on any progress or information. I'll certainly follow up this meeting with a copy of the project scope that I did submit, meaning, you know, the estimate of how much it will cost and what that entails. So happy to do that, and you know, I'm all for it. You give me the names and you do whatever you'd like to do to formalize that, but I think that's a fabulous idea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Hi.
much, Kelly, for, oh, I'm sorry. Someone joined us
Yeah.
by phone. Can you identify yourself?
Yeah, it's Lloyd Price, Jean. I could not, for whatever reason, get in on Zoom, but just wanted the minutes to reflect that I am here.
Great. I'm so glad you're with us. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Kelly, thank you so much for your work on this. These grants, you know, I get emails about them and I've sent them prior to town officials and they've really gone nowhere. I've gotten back, well, we can't because this or that or whatever. So thank you for taking the time. Grant proposals are always very time consuming to put together. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And I just wanted to put in a plug for this, for the town manager as well. Carrie's been very supportive of the work that you're doing and has been fully supportive of me taking time from other immediate needs to make sure we got the application in. So I've let Carrie know that I'll be, you know, keeping you apprised of how things go. We will knock on wood and hopefully, you know, I think we get a great proposal and this is the type of project that they're looking to fund. So hopefully we are in good hands and we just have to wait and find out where to go from here. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly.
Welcome.
And we'll let you step away. I know you've got another meeting in 5 minutes, so.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Thank you.
Okay, Junction Park safety concerns. I'm hoping one of you guys can, you know, has some information about what happened at the select board. I was off in Wisconsin and we were celebrating my daughter's birthday that evening, so I wasn't able to attend. Did anybody attend that or anybody know about what happened at select board? Okay. All right. Well, I'll try to do some research on it and see what I can find out. Yeah, Karen.
I don't know that any decision was made. I know that Marcia also made a presentation to the Green Thumbs, which was, I believe, the same presentation she made to our group, which I missed. And I know that because I'm also but they were basically in agreement with the proposal that the plan that Marcia presented. But I don't know what that means, like in real in real terms of implementation. But I did see, I think, Jean, did you see the pictures I sent you today? No, you didn't.
I don't think those, I don't think I got that.
Okay, I tried to send you a text this morning, walking my dogs through Junction Park. There's a sign, sandwich board at the entrance to Junction Park on Commonwealth Ave. And there are two signs. I don't know who designed them, but it looks like these are proposals for signage that would be in the park. And there's in very small print at the bottom, there's a sentence saying, vote for your favorite sign on the town website, which I've been away, I've been not home all day. So I haven't gone there to look, but actually one of them was quite eye-catching to me personally, but I have no idea, like I never heard that there would be this opportunity, you know, that, and I don't know, it sort of came out of the blue, but it looks like there must be some progress happening in, you know, related to these plans if they're out there with mock-ups of signs that might help with the traffic issues. So
okay.
But if you have a chance, either go to the town website or, you know, if you're driving by, take a look. It's a two-sided board.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mary Beth, you had your hand up, and then Janet, I see you have your.
Yeah. I was out of town also during that select board meeting, but I understood before the meeting that when Marcia met with the Green Thumbs, like you said, they were pretty much in agreement, but that what they wanted to do was add these planters sort of in the middle of the walkway. That was what I understood. And I don't know how people responded to that at the select board meeting, but I'm sure, like you said, that there was no decision made. It was just that they looked at that, they looked at what was proposed and whether or not, but I thought that Marcia was going to check in with the commission, with our commission, as well as check in with Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, safe, I think either the safety subcommittee or the whole rail trail in general, to get feedback, because that was a change in the original design, to just see what people thought. That was, I think, what was supposed to happen, but I really don't know what happened. I was out of town and couldn't attend. And there has not been another rail trail meeting since. We're not going to have another one until November 3rd. And I think that is on the agenda. So anyway, that's sort of all I know about it. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary Beth.
you're welcome.
And thank you, Karen. Janet, did you have a comment?
Yes, and I've forgotten what it was.
Okay. Well, it'll come back.
I'm sure it
anyway.
was something very unimportant.
Janet, are
It
you
was a point
taking
of
notes?
clarification, but
Are
I
you
am.
taking the notes now? Okay, good. All right. I'm
I
gonna
am,
stop
I
then.
am. Did you
Okay.
also, were you also, Mary Beth? Were
I
you
was
taking
up,
notes?
I was just waiting to hear that
Great.
you were, and then I'm gonna stop now, so, right.
Great, stop, because there are some things that I missed. So if you would send me
You can
yours, I would.
consult with me later and I'll try to
Yep.
see if I can
Yep.
help fill you in. Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Okay, good. Okay, so at our last meeting, I remember someone saying, can we talk next time about parking concerns in Concord? And so I thought probably what we should do is find out more from members about what concerns there are. And then I can invite somebody from DPW to come and talk with us. But to be able to give that person a little bit of a heads up ahead of time, these are some of the concerns that we have. Mary Beth.
Well, I recently have a parking concern. It's not a public street, though. It's private parking lot, but they still should be complying with ADA. And
yeah.
it's on Baker Street. It's 290 Baker Street. There's a whole lot of medical office buildings there. And so it looks to me, I mean, I've been going there for years to the dentist. And it used to be that I have my van, I have a passenger side, the ramp deploys from the passenger side. And I could always park, there was always a parking space there where the hatching or whatever it's called was on the passenger side, and I could park and get out. But the last time I went, which was a few weeks ago, somebody sort of took that space, cut the hatching in half so they could add an extra space so that so that I couldn't use the space to get out of the car. And the person who used the space that was created, I could see was really struggling to get the person, they did it in two spaces. I took some pictures of it, but I think I erased them since, because I went on vacation and I needed room in my photos. My memory was full, so I think I got rid of them. But anyway, I could see then that I had to park very far away from where I needed to enter the building. And I could see in the meantime, another woman who had a handicap, placard and everything, pulled up, and then somebody parked beside her. And in the 4 feet hatching, she was having difficulty getting an elder out of the back seat, set up with the walker. I mean, the whole thing was just like a mess. And I didn't have time. I was going on vacation, but I wanted to report it to somebody, but I don't know what they've done. I think they tried to just double the number of spaces, and they did it a hack job of it. So, That's
Probably not
290 Baker
legal.
Street.
I
Okay,
would doubt if that's legal.
Oh, no, I'm sure it isn't. I
it doesn't
reported
sound-
it
Yeah.
to, I talked to the dentist office about it. And they said to me, oh, we'll tell the manager. And they tried to show me where the manager's office was, but I couldn't find it and I just had to go home. So I didn't
Yeah.
feel like talking to anybody
You-
anyways.
So Mary Beth, I think that sounds super shady. Every
Really?
parking lot that is a private parking lot is required to have at least one van accessible space, which means that it's a 9-foot wide space with an 8-foot wide striped aisle adjacent to it. If it's a really big parking lot, sometimes they're required to have 2 van accessible parking spaces. Most parking lots in Concord aren't that big. They are also required to have ADA spaces that have a 5-foot wide striped aisle space. So it sounds like what they did is they took the van accessible space and tried to skinny down the aisle and squeeze another space in there. They're not allowed to do that. Unfortunately, I think you did the right thing by trying to go to the manager, but on this commission in the past as well, I think, we've reached out as a commission with a document, a letter, and so that the property owner knows that an issue has been raised at our local town level.
Mhm.
And then if there's or not a resolution at that point, the AAB can step in and set some pretty clear toothy fines to get things like that to happen. ADA is, as we've all talked about before, is a civil rights law. And so the policing of the and the kind of institution of the law in the real world comes down to building inspectors and the general public making reports about things that work or don't work. So it's only until someone like us or a citizen sees something like this and can say something. So I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
This
No,
doesn't-
I didn't follow up on it properly because, to say the truth, it was like 2 days before I was going to leave on my vacation. Then I left on vacation and I've only been back for a few days. And so, but it was one of these things that I had in my mind. I took pictures and I was gonna, but I didn't do anything. But
It's
I
a
am now
drag.
by,
It's
I am
a-
now by telling the commission that
You
this.
are,
Yeah.
and it's a
Okay.
drag though, because
Good for you.
at some point, that's an extra step for someone who's already been disenfranchised, by the whether it's a private or a public agency not following the rules.
It was
So
really ridiculous.
it's
yeah.
frustrating. I'm sorry that happened, because that doesn't sound
Yeah.
right at all. So
Yeah.
Jean, is that something that we can write a letter and direct it to the
Absolutely.
property owner? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I'm happy to dig around and find out who the property owner is and draft a letter. If I could send it to you, Jennifer, to proof
Sure.
it and make
Mhm,
sure I'm
sure.
saying things correctly.
Yep, I think we've
Um,
done this once or
we
twice
did.
before.
Yeah,
We
we
did.
Yeah,
And I think that was a dentist office too.
I think it was.
I think it might have been the chiropractor. Was it that Main Street where they put the dumpster on the?
No,
no,
but we did
okay.
do that
We
one
did
as
do that
well.
one
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let me write a letter. Other parking concerns. I have a question about the library.
Yeah,
So the library, the plans they showed us called for bump outs. And the last time I drove down Main Street, I didn't see any bump outs at the library.
So, Jean, I think the last time I remember the library parallel parking ADA
Mhm.
spaces that are in front of the new addition.
Right,
Though the parked car was not out of alignment with other non-ADA parked cars. They were all in alignment, but the access aisle, the unloading area, the striped pavement was on the sidewalk side. And
Oh, okay,
it was the sidewalk that was kind of like, that was pushed in to the
right,
property.
yeah.
And that's how they were gonna solve that problem, is they were going to
Yeah.
create, a side-by-side loading and parking that would push into the property rather than push out into the street.
Right.
So is that, I haven't
Yeah,
driven
so
by there in a
that-
while.
I would try
That
it.
makes sense. Maybe the car was parked in alignment
Yep,
and because they were using that access space. And I
Right.
drove by and I saw that and I went, wait a minute, they were supposed to have a bump out. I expected the car to be in farther.
yeah.
Okay,
That's probably what you were seeing and why so if you're just driving by in the street and there are cars parked in those ADA spaces, you might not even know that they're ADA spaces because the unloading zone is on the other side of the car
Mhm.
on the sidewalk side. You might not even see
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
right. Okay,
I'm just
you.
interested in knowing how successful, if at all, have we been in bringing these matters to the attention of the appropriate people? Do they get acted on, or what actually happens?
So we
Anyone
did
know?
the letter about the dumpster. That owner did make a change so that there's better access in that to the handicap spots. Quite honestly, I haven't been back to the Sudbury Road dentist to see if they actually painted the parking space.
I haven't
Mhm.
either. Did
We have one success.
the person
recently.
who complained, that was, I think, the most recent one, Lloyd, was the one on Sudbury Road. It was a very small healthcare, I think it was a dental practice that had no space designated for accessible parking.
Okay.
I don't, and the person who notified us about this has not returned to the commission either.
Right.
correct?
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to put checking that out on my to-do list. I go to CVS pretty often, so
Yeah.
it's nearby. Are there other parking concerns that people have?
This is parking, Jean, would be one of those things that would make an excellent topic for any kind of town-wide ADA assessment.
Mhm.
It's something that Kelly,
Right.
we would want to make sure that that would be on her list. So,
Yes.
for sure. Sorry, just one more thing. So, Public Works might have information about where they have ADA parking at
Mhm.
public facilities. So it's something that if people are interested, we could start to dig around. I think personally, I think we should wait and see if the grant comes through and we can attach it to
Yeah.
that effort.
Mhm.
But they would be the ones to talk about in terms of public parking areas.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So in terms of asking someone there to come, we'll just hold on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only piece of new business I put on here, we talked last time about October being National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And somebody asked if I would talk a little bit about disability employment and how we deal with that at Minuteman Arc. So I've got just a little brief information to show you and a few photos. This year is actually the 77th National Disability Employment Awareness month, or it started as a week. It started as a week for people with physical disabilities, and then it was changed to just all disabilities. And one of the reasons that it's important is that the employment rate for people with disabilities of all types is 31 0.4% in 2022 nationally. That compares with 72.5% for non-disabled people. And it really, you know, arises out of the problem of systemic ableism in the labor force, with, you know, employers or coworkers feeling like people with disabilities are not able to do the job. I think, I don't have statistics on it, but I do know throughout my career that, you know, employers, if they're not wanting to hire someone with a disability, they will often say, well, this person is going to be absent more often because they have a disability. But in actuality, people with disabilities have far fewer sick days than people who are able-bodied. The poverty rate, most people with disabilities live in poverty. The poverty rate for people with disabilities, where they're actually below the national poverty level, is 27% versus 12% for the non-disabled community. And that's because of a number of factors. One, because the employment rate is so low, and when people do get jobs, they typically work fewer hours, and there's a large wage gap. A person with a disability typically gets paid 74 cents for every dollar that a person who does not have a disability gets paid. So there's a wage gap, fewer hours, and the fewer hours are not necessarily connected to people not wanting to work full-time. Many people do want to work full-time, but there are penalties really for working full-time if people make over a certain income level. And I think the adjusted gross income now is about $1,200, which is not a lot of money. If they make over that, then they start to lose from the disability payment. So yeah, I know some of you are very well aware of that. The other issue is around the asset limits, because people can only have assets of $2,000. So that's a problem as well. And that keeps people feeling like, well, I can't work full-time. If I work full-time and I'm able to have some savings, and that goes up over $2,000, then I'm going to lose my Social Security disability payments. And even more important, oftentimes it would be losing access to healthcare. So, you know, because of the number of people who live below that poverty level, there's a lot of food insufficiency. It's 3 times as high for people with disabilities. It's 21.5% versus 6.5%. I feel like my folks are very fortunate because they don't worry about food insufficiency. But in the general population, it's an issue. And then, of course, that leads to poor physical and mental health outcomes overall. There's also a federal law in this country. It's typically called 14C, and that allows employers to pay people with disabilities at less than minimum wage. So they're not even making minimum wage. It's typically work that is paid piece rate. So it might be, I don't know, it might be folding a piece of paper and putting it in an envelope. I just did one of the CARF surveys that I do for a place in Illinois that had a 14C, and they were having people put a label on a little package of spices. And it's mostly repetitive, very low paid work. And because someone has a disability, the employer can pay them less than minimum wage. And that means sometimes people are working 30 hours a week and they're taking home a paycheck of $50 maybe. Yeah. 14C is a federal law, and it started originally to help people who were blind and to help people so they at least could earn some money. But it's really seen pretty much across the country as a really negative kind of law at this point, that people with a disability should be making at least minimum wage. Minuteman Arc does not have a 14C. We haven't had a 14C since 1999. Yeah.
Do places in town who hire people with disabilities, are they operating off that 14? See, so for instance, when I go
No.
to Crosby's no, they're not. Okay.
No, only a nonprofit organization.
Only
called
nonprofits.
a 14C.
Okay.
So if a nonprofit provides some employment for people with disabilities and wants to do some of this piece rate work, whatever it might be.
Like Goodwill does this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're allowed to pay people less than minimum wage. There are rules about how, they can't take something that really the cost is, I don't know, say $1 and charge the company they're working for 75 cents just to keep that wage down. They do have to charge based on some typical wage rates for the particular work.
Yeah.
But again, people who are working in what's usually called a workshop, there's no incentive really to work faster or work better or learn new skills. And so over time, people kind of get into a fairly complacent, this is what I do, but I come to work with my friends and I have a little money and it's okay. And so there are actually 13 organizations in Massachusetts that have a 14C. I don't know if they are all using them, but typically it's a lot of work to apply and to continue to renew a 14C certificate. So usually organizations aren't going to do that unless they're going to use it. So let me tell you a little bit about Minuteman Arc and some of the work that we do. I do have some pictures I can show you. Well, first of all, whoops. Let me share my screen. And I can show you some pictures of some of the people that we serve and some of the jobs that they have. So this is Sarah. She works at TJ Maxx and she oversees the dressing room. This is a gentleman who works at Roach Brothers. We have several people who work at Roach Brothers. We've got a couple of people who work at Roach Brothers who've worked there for over 20 years. And they are paid. Can you see this one? This is Laura. And let's see. This is a whole group, but this is our West Concord watering group. So this is a great public-private partnership between or among the town of Concord DPW and the West Concord Green Thumbs, who put together these baskets of flowers that hang all over West Concord, and Minuteman Arc, who waters them Monday through Friday, and the DPW people water on the weekends if it's needed. We don't have this many people out watering every day. It's usually 3 people who go to do the watering, but it's a whole group altogether. And I think I couple more. We do cleaning. This is at an insurance company. And this is a new company to Concord. This is doing some filing for a company called Trashology. And they're over on Baker Avenue. And they make little bricks out of trash that are used for providing fuel. I think they're mostly purchased by the Army. So overall, we work with many employers. We work with probably maybe 30 different employers altogether. But we work with 7 employers in Concord. We work with Crosby's. We have 3 people employed at Crosby's. If you've ever been to Crosby's, you've probably met David. He's the mayor of Crosby's. He's also the assistant football coach for Concord Carlisle High School. We have 2 people who are employed by Concord Academy. You saw Caitlin, who's employed at Trashology and the Concord Flower Baskets. We have a person who's employed at New England Deaconess in their laundry. She's been employed there probably close to 20 years as well. We have one person who is currently employed by the town clerk's office. I would say it's a seasonal job. She's helping open ballots and so forth. So it's not an ongoing job, but she's a person who always likes to have at least 2 jobs. So she's got her other job, and then she's also working for the town clerk. And then we have a person who works at Hanscom Field, who does the mailroom at Hanscom Field. And that is under a contract with, it's sort of an in-between with the federal government. They're called Ability One. And that Ability One jobs, which are always in federal facilities, are fabulous jobs to have. I think our staff probably do make a little bit more now, that since we've given a couple of good pay increases, but at the beginning of the last fiscal year, he was making more than our staff were, because they're well paid. And they also get an additional, it's called a health and welfare bonus. That's like an extra $2.85, but people are on mass health, so they don't have to spend money on that. It's just extra funds in their pocket. So yeah, Mary Beth.
Can you explain a little bit more the role that Minuteman plays in helping people get these jobs, and
Sure.
the role that you have with the employer and all of that? Because
yeah, sure. So what happens, someone comes to us brand new, and we typically will, we do some questionnaires, find out what the person likes, what kind of work they might want to do. If it's a young person who's coming out of high school, they might have had some work with the school system, placing them in jobs. And then we'll typically do a few job tryouts. If somebody says, gosh, I'd love to go water the flowers, we'll put them on the crew for that. We've got several job sites that are group sites, so there's always a staff person there. The flower baskets, of course, we have a horse farm in Acton that we work with. It's not glamorous work. They're mucking out the stalls and putting out food and water for the horses, but the people who like being around animals and really enjoy that. We have a group site at TJX that's back room, helping to unload the trucks, taking things out of boxes, hanging them up, and sometimes doing reclamation in the store, which is somebody who goes around and picks up all the stuff all the product that fell on the floor because people, pulled it off the hanger or whatever. And we've got several sites where people are doing cleaning, where they can do a tryout. And then we have individual sites. There's a brewery in Maynard that will let us bring someone just for a job trial to see if it works. Can they do the job? Do they like it? So we'll take people individually on work trials. And then once we figure out what they want, they have a chance to sort of sample a few things and see what they like. Then our job developers will look for an individual placement for them. If assuming there's somebody who can work independently. If not, we'll help them to fit into whatever work crew that they might like. And then we have job coaches who go with them, who help them to learn the job, make sure they know, when they're supposed to be there, when they're supposed to go to break. Importantly, when they're supposed to come back from break and rejoin the workforce. And the job coach really tries to help them learn some of those soft skills that people need to be able to be successful at work. So things like, yes, your supervisor really can tell you what to do, and you need to listen, and you need to do what your supervisor tells you to do. And no, you can't take your cell phone, carry it around and be texting or calling people while you're supposed to be working. You need to put it in your locker if there's a locker, or your purse, or leave it at home, or whatever. So, some of those skills we'll teach people those. And then the job coach stays with the person until they learn the job, and then sort of slowly fades back. And the person is on their own. And that might, for some people, they only need a couple days of job coaching. Other people may need several months. Some people need some amount of job coaching kind of ongoing. They need somebody to come in and check and make sure, things are going okay. So then our job coaches will continue to go in, whether it's every couple days or once a week or once a month, and just check in with the individual, check in with the employer to see how things are going. And we provide employers with some training about language, people first language, of course. We're not using the R word, and how to work with somebody. There also are tax credits that employers can get for hiring someone with a disability. So we provide them information on how to apply for the tax credit. Because if somebody's going to employ a person, it might take a little bit longer to train them. They might need a little bit more supervision, and we want the employer to be able to get the tax credit to help them be able to pay for that little bit of extra that a person might need when they're first starting out. So
Thank
that's
you.
kind of what they do. And then after a while, sometimes people feel like, I've been doing this 4 or 5 years. I'd like to try something new. And that's great. We want people to do that. And so then the job coach will go looking for, whatever other kind of job it is. I will say employers in Concord, and actually all of our surrounding towns, have been really good to work with. They've been just fabulous. And we've really not had, no, this is a really negative employer and we're going to just pull people out because it's not a good environment. I think that's only happened once in all my years here, and that company's not in business anymore. That was actually at Kmart in Acton, which was fine. And then a new manager came in and didn't like having to deal with someone with a disability. So that's kind of the process that we do. And that's a very typical process for most providers, letting people try some things, finding out what their skills are, what they like, and then finding a job for them.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And just like we're having a hard time finding staff, although that's gotten a lot better lately, employers all over the place are. So it's a good market for our folks right now because employers are really wanting staff.
Hmm.
So that's my little spiel about employment. Questions, comments?
Thank you, Jean, for
You're
so
welcome.
much for taking the time. Do you know if Minuteman ARC is the only organization helping people with disabilities and matching people with disabilities up with employers? Are there other organizations besides Minuteman ARC that you know of?
Well, there are.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, they're even just ARCs. There are 19 ARCs across the state. In terms of in Concord, the only other in Concord organization would be the Guild for Human Services. They're located out on Virginia Road. They moved to Concord 3 years ago, maybe. And I think at this point, most of their work is volunteer work. They serve a highly behavioral group,
Mhm.
and they're a little more challenging to find jobs for.
Does Mass Rehab do that, any of that? Do they still help people?
Yes, yeah,
They do.
yes. And we have a contract with Mass Rehab also. And
Okay.
that the process is kind of similar. The lengths of time of what can happen and so forth are a little bit different. But overall, it's pretty much the same process.
Hmm.
Mass Rehab, we typically don't have people go on to work crews. We try to find the individual employers that will let people have a job tryout. And a lot of our employers, like, Roach Brothers, we've got several people employed, and if we want to go do a tryout there, they're always willing to let us do that.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I think that is everything on our agenda for tonight. We haven't gotten any correspondence this month, so that's where we are. So does someone want to move to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Meryl seconded. Janet, do you want
Shall
to?
I call the roll?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Meryl,
Yes, aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Jean,
I
Lloyd,
think he
I think
had
he's
to
hung up.
go.
And Janet, yes, okay.
You
So
missed
we
Karen.
adjourn.
Miss
Karen.
Karen.
Aye.
I miss Karen. She's not showing on my screen. Sorry, Karen. Yeah,
Aye.
oh, there she is. Okay. Sorry, I was just reading across the top of my screen and you had gotten bounced off.
Oh, so our
So it's
next,
unanimous.
our next meeting is scheduled for November 10th. So we'll see you all then. Thank you very much. And if you want to come over and check out the Oasis, feel free.
Yeah, I want to do that. I'm so sorry. I
And
missed
it's
it.
outdoors. You can come on the
Yeah.
weekend if you want. We
Yeah.
won't be there to show it to you, but you can figure it out. Okay, have a great month. See you.
Aye.
Bye.
Bye.